Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another week of TGP2 action. Tonight we have Hungary and Belgium on the way tonight, rounds 13 and 14 of this season. And coming into this race, we have Dom in the lead of the championship. He's got a fairly substantial lead at the minute. He's got a 45-point lead, I think it is, over John Menzies in second place. Got Dom on 193 points. John is on 148. With Owen 4 points back on 144 and Michael Sully on 139. But John and Owen, of course, will have an extra week, because as you could say, they have sort of 2 games in hand in a couple of weeks' time when Dom misses the penultimate week of the season. But right now, it's just all about Dom trying to preserve his lead, and we'll see if the guys behind can catch up. At the minute, it's looking good for John Menzies, who is currently on pole in this qualifying session so far, but there is still a few minutes to go and one more run to come. And alongside me tonight to enjoy the action is Roy. Good evening, Roy.
Good evening, Daniel. Yeah, looking forward to tonight. 2 very different circuits, and I expect 2 very different setups on the cars, and certainly were for me anyway yesterday. So starting off with the very high downforce Hungaroring, where overtaking can be difficult, but it is possible, and we certainly saw quite a lot of battles in TGP1 last night, so hopefully more of the same tonight in TGP2.
Yeah, definitely saw a very entertaining Hungary race yesterday in TGP1, as you say. And I think this is the race that's going to have the safety car on tonight, isn't it? With the TGP2 rules, where one race a night will have the safety car, and the safety car is on for this race, but it will not be on for Spa, we believe. But right now, it's quite quiet on track. We have got Speed Sully out there, but he is 2 seconds down, so I assume he's on a cool down lap where he's about to pit. But 2 minutes to go in the session, just over, and the drivers will start to come out now for the final runs. And pretty crucial, I think Owen is the big loser at the minute in this quality session, down in 10th place. Remember, he's third in the championship on 144 points, and he could do with getting up there. But John Menzies has a big lead at the minute, half a second ahead of Shep, who's in an excellent second place. But let's see what happens with the final runs and if it shakes things up further.
Yeah, and I think the first of the big hitters to begin their final lap, I think actually might be Sully, but I don't know if he's going to have the battery to finish his lap. Let's see what his first sector is like. It's 10th down on his previous time.
Oh, he's invalidated. And that, yeah.
Busy night for the mechanics. So Wheelnut is at turn 1. So I think he's the first of the main drivers to complete their final flying lap, with Mayor Quenby just a few seconds behind him. So let's see how Wheelnut attacks this first sector on the way down to turn number 4. He's over 0.3 of a second up, nearly 0.4 of a second up on his previous time, which would jump him up a good few positions here. Could break into the top 5 with that, and that's only sector 1, which is effectively 2 corners. So negotiates the chicane quite nicely. He does have a bit of traffic in front of him. Hopefully that will move out of the way. The Williams was a bit conveniently out of the way there and missing a few bits, but hopefully that Ferrari won't cause any issues for Daniel. He's nearly 0.8 of a second up on his lap. This could be good enough for the front row if he just simply matches his previous final sector. That Ferrari still a little bit close at this point, but he's going to carry on. And Wheelnut then round the final corner. Will he connect with the apex? He just misses it, I'd say. But Wheelnut then crossing the line, and it is P3. He actually lost a bit of time in that final sector. Don't know if he's quite close enough to the Ferrari to blame it on that. But Mayor Quenby then P4 on the grid in the AlphaTauri. I think next to cross the line will be pole sitter John Menzies.
Yeah, it's John coming around the final corner. He's slightly down through this lap, but as he improved, no, he ends up just slightly off in the end, where Dom is coming through, about to cross the second sector point here. And let's see if he's up. Oh, he's only very fractionally up, so Dom at the minute, he might not even get a front row yet. He might not even get a second row.
Yeah, and M-Shep was ever so slightly up after sector 1, but he invalidated his lap, so M-Shep will not be improving in this qualifying session as Dom rounds the final corner. Takes a late apex, but maybe a bit too much curb as Dom crosses the line, but it's still good enough for P2. He's still a good bit adrift with John Menzies, though. John Menzies at the moment, class of the field. Wheelnut, I think, is on an in-lap. Chris Johnson, 0.2 of a second up and sort of teleporting his way through the final corner there. Chris Johnson crosses the line, and it is P2.
Seconds.
Did that take a while?
Yeah, it took a while. He's obviously lagging slightly,
yeah.
but the graphics took a while to update there.
Oh.
But he has gone into second place.
Well, that's the final lap of the session. Not sure quite how that bodes for the race. But, oh dear.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we know that Dom usually gets a very good start, so he will certainly want to get ahead of Chris Johnson. If, of course, if he's going to have that lag throughout the race. Let's hope it sorts itself out, though. But yeah, that's the second good qualifying for him in a row. Actually, he had a really good qualifying at the last race as well in France. But so he's never really been brilliant in qualifying, Chris Johnson. But he's finding his way lately.
Yeah, hopefully his internet finds its way and provides a stable connection, because I kind of fear for his attrition. But anyway, John Menzies then taking a dominant pole position in TGP2 in Hungary, with Chris Johnson joining him on the front row. Will he survive the session long enough to join him in the race? We shall find out. Dom Smith, I think he'd be happy enough with P3. A bit of a concerning gap, though, you have to say, to John Menzies. M. Shep, a very strong P4, with Wheelnut completing the top 5. Owen, I think, will be a bit disappointed with P6. Jacko's just behind in 7th, with Jack Craig, Speed Sully and Sayre Sports completing the top 10. Followed by Neljack, Blair Grills, Baza and Indecisive Mackie starting in the points positions, with Mike Noon, Red Bull Kim, Mick Schumacher, Kaya and the other drivers who are completing the grid. So I think Sully might be a bit disappointed with that quality result, but there's still plenty to play for. And of course, the safety car could come out. I mean, safety car is enabled if needs be, but not a guarantee.
Yeah, and I was having a look at the sector times there as well on the race director, and it's all in the middle sector where John Menzies is gaining that time around here. He was almost like 4 tenths quicker than pretty much it seemed like the rest of the field around him as we get ready then for the race. I suppose that's really the crucial sector around here, isn't it? That middle sector. If you can hook that one up, you will get a decent lap on the board. Of course, he's second in the championship, fair way behind Dom. Of course, he will have those 2 extra races in a couple of weeks, but of course, he will still want to win this one.
Yeah, 20 drivers on the grid then here in TGP2 for Hungary. Sadly, Johnners didn't have a space available for him on his new wheel. But here we go. 5 lights on in Hungary. And we are away, and it looks like a pretty decent start there for John Menzies. And Dom Smith is already up into P2 in the slipstream of the Aston Martin ahead of him. Chris Johnson's already dropped down to P4, so pretty poor start from him. John Menzies giving Dom plenty of space there, but gets a nice exit, and Dom Smith there with a little bit of wheel spin on the exit, but he's up into P2. Chris Johnson then, he seems fairly okay at the moment, but he has dropped those 2 places. Emstep giving Chris plenty of space, but Chris nearly hits him still. Owen is now up into P5, so he's going to place off the line. He's jumped Wheelnut, and Neljack enters the top 10 as Kaya in the background has had a spin, and he is out of the race.
Safety car, is
and
it?
That is...
It's a VSC.
Yes. I can't actually tell. It's not telling me.
Yeah,
it's just saying yellow flag everywhere.
Yeah, it's. But I've seen it on the board. Oh, now it's a full safety car. It did say VSC on the first board that I've seen, but now it has gone to a full safety car, and you can see I can see on the mini map as well. The safety car has been deployed then. So he had a big crash car coming out of turn 3. That's your favourite corner, isn't it, Roy? Of course, and he went off and is in the wall and is out of the race then. So are we going to see pit stop straight away? Let's have a look at the tyres. Chris Johnson in 4th on the mediums. That might explain his poor start, but not good. You don't want to be on the mediums with such an early safety car. Is John going to pit? Oh, he thought about it. Dom is coming in.
That's a risky one there, because he's going to deal with a lot of traffic. I mean, he won't be the only one to pit. In fact, quite a lot of drivers are choosing to pit, but actually, no, not really. There's only a handful of drivers who've decided to pit at this early stage, perhaps anticipating a second safety car so that they can save their tyres up a little bit. But yeah, that's it's a very difficult one though, because you have to go 17 laps on a set of tyres.
Look at that! Look at that! Shepherd
how's
has
he done
jumped.
that?
He's jumped. I think Don might have had to wait for other drivers who were coming out, who were obviously coming ahead of him. Couldn't have any unsafe releases, and so Shep's done a Phil and Holly. He's jumped the queue and he's ahead, and he's going to have track position once we get going again.
Well, you know what, like Phil and Holly, the opportunity was there and he took it. So he has jumped ahead of Dom. Not a disaster for him. I think typically we have the unsafe release on, and maybe that wasn't enabled in this session. But anyway, yeah, Freddie, chaotic start towards the back of the field anyway with, another incident. Of course, I was pushed wide myself there at turn 3 last night, and had to take evasive action, but made it cleanly through nonetheless. But so let's have a look at the state of this race then. There's 7 drivers up at the front who have not pitted, and crucially John Menzies is one of them. John Menzies and Chris Johnson, the 2 drivers on the front row. But Chris Johnson, of course, did start on the medium, so it makes sense. It was a no-brainer for Chris Johnson, I should say, to stay out, whereas John had a bit more of a difficult decision. I have a feeling Dom was just going to do what John didn't do. Maybe he feels like he doesn't have the pace to beat John around this track.
It's probably a good idea. But yeah, so the soft tyre runners who stayed out there was John, Sayer Sports and Angel versus Death. But Angel versus Death, I thought I saw him have a bit of damage a minute ago, but actually it looks like he's staying out for the time being. So Angel versus Death stays out on track then. But of course we did see yesterday in TGP1, Kieran pitted, didn't he, on the first lap for medium tyres for the rest of the race, and ends up doing fairly well. Of course, it is a slightly different scenario because, of course, he did that for clean air. This is obviously a very different situation with the safety car involved. But he got the tyres to the end. He did lose the position to Jack Hickey towards the end, but he didn't make it to the end. Don will be helped, of course, by these extra laps on the safety car. But it just depends now if John can build a gap on those soft tyres at the restart, and if he'll be flying once he puts the medium tyres on in a few laps' time as well.
Yeah, given that we had a safety car in lap 1, I mean, we still have another 15 laps of this race to have another interruption in this race. So a cheap pit stop could still come the way of the drivers at the front of this field. So it is possible, definitely. But as we saw with Kieran yesterday, it is very difficult to keep the car on the road at the end there. He did lose a lot of pace towards the end, but yeah, it is possible if you can survive. But of course they also have to get through the traffic that is ahead of them, so the first driver they'll have to clear is the Haas of Angel versus Death, and then Baza in the Mercedes.
Yeah, that's a very, very, very good point, of course. And will the safety car be in on this lap? We should find out in just a minute. It's the Aston Martin safety car leading the Aston Martin F1 car, and the safety car is indeed coming in this lap then. So John on those soft tyres, so you would imagine that warm-up would be easier for John, and Chris Johnson may struggle slightly once we get going again. But of course it's also important as to exactly when John decides to go for it. I think he led the safety car restart in France, didn't he, last week, and made a pretty good job of that. Let's see if he can repeat it.
He's not
still
going
waiting
too early, yeah. You probably want to floor it now, I'd say, really.
Still,
there we go. I don't know if that was ideal. Actually, no, that was pretty terrible, actually.
No,
as Chris Johnson's all
work.
over the back of him. He's got a lot of wheel spin there as he went onto full power. And Chris Johnson, then, can he make it around the outside? No, he can't. Perhaps not having the confidence on those medium tyres. Someone who is having a bit of confidence is Sayer Sports and Jack Craig. They're already in a battle for P3. And Jack Craig then round the outside of Sayer Sports. Can he make it stick? Jack's on the mediums. He didn't leave a lot of space on the inside
Dom and Owen have touched further back. Owen was trying to get through. Dom got straight through on Shepherd at the restart, and then Owen went for it at turn 2, but they collided. A disaster for Owen.
And
M-Chef's gone off as well. Yeah, M-Chef must have went off as he was rejoining the track, but that is a disaster for Owen. He's now at the back.
So Mark Wemby, then, he'll definitely be hoping for another safety car in this race. He has he's already passed Red Bull Kim and Mike Noon, actually, and Mick Schumacher. So he's already gained 3 places. But yeah, no, still a disaster for Mayor Quemby, as he's now down to P17.
Yeah, Mick Schumacher got back ahead there. I wonder if Shep's got damage, actually. I think he's just gone off the track again. So they just collided going through turn 2. Dom got the move done, though. So Dom managed to avoid all of that, and he is on his way now, coming up to Angel versus Death, next up in the traffic. But, of course, difficult to overtake around here. John will be relieved, I imagine, up at the front that he managed to keep that lead, because that was a very poor restart.
Oh, crash in the background for a McLaren wheel nut. He took too much curb on the final corner. It went straight into the wall. That's another
Blake
safety car
as well, and it is another safety car. Yeah, Blake Gills went off as well, and another safety car then as the cars rejoined back into formation then, and Shep's actually came into the pit lane. So Shep did get damage from that instance, and in he comes. He's also got Mike Newcomb in as well, so busy times for Alfa Romeo. So Shep, who looks so good in this race, sadly for him, is going to lose quite a bit of time now, although of course he will be glad with this safety car. So second safety car then in this race. This is the first time a TGP race had 2 safety cars since Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, and still plenty of time for a third one, so
yeah,
could still complicate things further, but I suppose nothing really changes at the front. If you're Chris Johnson, you still can't pit, really. For John Menzies, I suppose you kind of just have to bite the bullet and pit now.
Yeah, I think this is probably the time, isn't he? Probably just have to go for it. But I think John is going to... Where would he come out, John? I mean, he would certainly be behind Dom, obviously.
I think behind Mr. John.
I think this will put Dom in a very good position either way. And yeah, indeed, John is coming in. Chris is having to stay out on those mediums. So is Jack Craig. And is Speed Sully come in? No, Speed Sully's going to come in here. He's going to try and do 13 laps on the softs, I imagine. So good luck with that one. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
no,
of course these are both the Aston Martins who have to queue as well, so this isn't good for Joe.
Yeah, Joe with the double stack there not working in his favour. Not as bad as it was on previous games with the tire, where the mechanics had to run back into the garage and get the tyres, but he's I don't think he's lost anything there. I don't think he got jumped by
Speed Sully just behind him, so he didn't lose the position to Speed Sully.
Speed Sully is doing a lot of laps on those soft tyres. There seems to be a big step between the soft and medium tyres around here in terms of degs, so he may need another safety car or a virtual safety car later in this race. But Dom now up into 4th. John Menzies P11. He's behind Owen, who's had that incident, and Owen deciding to stick it out and just stay out on track.
I mean, I suppose, this safety car will allow him to cool the tyres down and all that. They're all over the place probably after that spin, but the safety car will help, and I assume he didn't get any significant damage in the contact, so he will just be hoping that he can stay out there. But this is going to be interesting then to see if John can get through the field, because he's clearly got the pace around here, but he's going to have to make some overtakes.
And I'm hearing news that it wasn't actually Dom who had any involvement in that incident. It was actually just Shep and Owen who collided.
Yeah.
And Owen's not very happy, apparently. Some words have been said over the radio, and can also confirm he does not have any damage. So his car is damage free, but he's back up into P9, which is effectively P6 because the top 3 have yet to pit. So it could be a lot better, but also could be a lot worse. So not a total disaster, and there's still plenty of this race to go. We could yet see another safety car in this race.
Absolutely. So if you're one of the top 3, Chris Johnson, Jack Craig, Bazet, who start on the medium tyres and stayed out, what are you kind of hoping for in this race? You also hoping for another safety car? I think you've probably got to, haven't you?
Yeah, and I was thinking with Owen, if he did pit again, given that he was already at the back, what was he going to do? He just have to throw on another set of mediums that were only 3 laps fresher. So I suppose it makes sense for Owen to stay out, and hopefully traffic won't play too much of an issue. I suppose it's not really traffic though, because the drivers ahead of him, I believe, have already pitted. So the only real traffic is the top 3.
Yeah, it's like actual proper fighting for position at this stage. Interesting to note Neljak as well there, by the way, in 6th place right now. He actually put the hard tyres on when he came into the pit lane at the first safety car. Did he? He started on the soft tyres as well, so obviously did not want to do the mediums for the rest of the race. We'll see. Might work for him, especially if those mediums do start going off towards the end. Well, of course, these safety car laps will be helping those guys massively. Let's see, is the safety car going to be in this lap then? That's really where we find out. And Chris Johnson, see how he can get on at managing a safety car restart. And safety car is indeed in this lap.
Chris Johnson then not really keen on putting a whole lot of energy into the tyres.
I don't know what just happened there, but Joe Zayed, he went off at turn 11 there and lost a few positions.
Oh. Can't say I saw it, but Chris Johnson then is not really doing any weaving and not really making a huge attempt to back the pack up, and yet somehow why is Jack Craig not on the back of him? Oh, he's a bit twitchy at the final corner there, but Jack Craig, then he's nowhere near him. How has he done that?
Chris Johnson all over him.
Chris Johnson did nothing, and yet he's up the road. But Bassett then tries to go around the outside. Not quite sure it's going to work. The tyres are pretty cold at this point, and takes a lot of exit curb does Bassett, but he's not able to get through. Dom then still in 4th. Probably not a great safety car restart for him either, given his gap to Bassett. Jacko and Neljak doing battle behind.
Oh, Owen's trying to get it to him and gets involved in another instance. He tapped the back there. And there's the Red Bulls hit. Indecisive has gone round. Blake Hills has crashed as well. Could this be another safety car? Owen, I don't think he's got damage, but he did hit the back of Indecisive there, and then Mr. John went into the side of Indecisive and lost the car.
And look at the traction that Owen has on Indecisive Mackie up the inside at the chicane. Very nicely done. So Owen then already up into 7th, which is a net P4, and the car ahead of him is on the hard compound tyre. So Dom then not really looking too impressive as Jack Craig's gone for a spin.
On the medium tyre, so that's a disaster for him. That's surely pretty much his race over now, unless there's another safety car. But it probably promotes Dom up to 3rd place, but of course moves Owen and John up as well.
Now Jack looking fairly handy around here, but Owen is absolutely scything through the gap that he had to the 3 cars in front of him.
Oh! John, an indecisive touch there as John was making the move, but John's got through now, so will he be on the back of Owen? Will Owen and John both be charging now to catch Neljak and Jacko ahead? Neljak and Jacko are going to go side by side here.
Neljak on the hards with seemingly a good bit more pace than the drivers ahead. I mean, Dom's not really pulling away. I know he's now stuck behind Baza in P2, but he wasn't really making a massive impression beforehand. But I suppose Dom, he has the net lead of the race now, so there's no real need to be totally aggressive. So he can afford to save his battery. There's another incident further behind. Shep.
It's Shep again at turn 2 again as well, so he's had another incident there. And Say Sport and Red Bull Kim are going to go side by side. Oh, it's a big crash at turn 4. And Say Sport is lucky not to DNF, but he has lost his front wing there.
Yeah, I don't think Red Bull Kim knew he was there. That it looked like a bit of an aggressive move back to the racing line from the brief bit of camera viewing I had. But Dom then... Oh, we have another incident. Owen's round again.
Owen's off again.
I don't know what's happened to him there. I keep missing the incidents with Owen. But he's gone for a spin.
It is easy to lose the car through that corner, to be fair, but
did he just spin?
Disaster again for Owen in his championship, I assume so. Unless he collided with John Menzies, which obviously would be huge for the championship, but I don't think John was anywhere really near him to cause that a collision, and John sets the fastest lap there, so the owner certainly did not touch, I would say, and must have been a mistake by Owen. Now he's down to 9th.
So even despite more spins, he's still in the top 10 is Owen, but yeah, it's been an absolute mess of a race so far from him, and more incidents behind.
Yes, that wasn't really instant in the end. It was just John was way too deep going into turn 2. Turn 2 causing a lot of action here, but he lost a little bit of time, but he'll recover that quite quickly. Still there, Roy?
Apologies, I had my mic muted there. Had to cough.
Oh, right, okay.
I was speaking, but yeah, obviously no one heard me. But yeah, Chris Johnson, I was saying to an audience of 0, has a 4.7 second lead. It's going up massively as Baza just not really having a great deal of pace here. Don't know if he's playing the team game here for Jacko, because he's holding up Dom quite a bit, and Dom will probably want to get a move on here. He's got a good bit more deployment than Baza ahead of him, so it's available for him to use. He just needs to get a good exit out of this corner and hope that Baza is a little bit slow out of it. But there's a fair gap there. Jacko's closer to Dom than Dom is to Baza, but DRS is now enabled, and Baza, he's wise to it. He knows there's no point fighting it. There's no point fighting cars that have already pitted. Some drivers didn't realise that last night. But anyway, Jacko, will he be let through by his Mercedes
He's already let him through. He's already let him through. Jacko let him through straight away there. Yeah, but unlike in Austria, Baza managed to filter back in without hitting the side of his teammates, and stays in 4th place for now. But Neljak's got to run here, and is Neljak going to... No, that would be way too risky going into Tier 4.
Neljak, though, he's got a good bit of confidence on those hard tyres. Confidence I certainly wouldn't have anyway. I'm scared of the mediums as it is, but he has no deployment left in his car. So I think he was very aggressive at the restart. But yeah, surely those hard tyres are going to start causing him a bit of pain, as he now has John Menzies all over the back of him, but he's way quicker than Baza right in front of John Menzies.
John again, way too much curb.
Yeah, bottomed out on the curb, and was sent off to Austria, but still no damage done to his car at least, and he still maintains position as Neljak goes very deep, trying to find all sorts of lines, as Baza then decides to finally come into the pits. Chris Johnson 5.6 seconds clear of Dom in P2. So Chris Johnson looks like he has fairly decent pace out there on those old medium tyres, but he probably want to pit fairly soon. Although at this point he might as well just stay out and just see what happens if there is another interruption in this race, and he can maybe get a cheap pit stop. But Neljak then, he has been overtaken by John Menzies.
Yeah, John's got the position,
the net podium.
If John's got the pace then around here, he needs to show it, because he needs to catch up to Dom, and it's vital in the championship with such a big gap right now. Again, to mention, John will have those 2 races that Dom won't be here for in a couple of weeks' time, but anyway, it does not matter right now. He still has to try and beat Dom on the track during the actual race here in Hungary, and he's closing in at a quick rate here, certainly to Jacko. He's closed in half a second already.
Yeah, John Menzies then could still win this race. Well, yeah, he's right in it. I mean, that's Dom right there at the apex. Yeah. So he set a purple second sector, and apparently a purple sector 1 as well. How reliable that is, we're about to find out. He's only got 2 more corners to negotiate. Will he get DRS? He will on Jacko. So he's already in the DRS train that Dom is beginning to form here. And John Menzies then, DRS wide open. Does he set the fastest lap? He does indeed, as Chris Johnson finally comes into the pits, and I think he's going to come out in P9 perhaps? P8 or P9? I'll go P9 on that one. So bit of a shame for Chris Johnson. Looks like his pace was quite decent, but the safety car is doing him absolutely no favours. But Dom then briefly popped up over a second there. Yeah, it's over a second now again. So Dom just about broken free of the DRS detection range, but I suppose if anything you might want to keep Jacko just about within a second, so that it's harder for John to pass him. But I think with John's pace, I don't think it's going to be too difficult for him.
Well, I mean, it's pretty much impossible to overtake around here, so it's going to be another middle sector of John getting held up slightly, which of course is fantastic for Dom. But John is going to want to get this move done immediately. He will have 5 laps after this to catch up to Dom. You have to say, given this pace, it looks like he's going to do it, although Jacko tries to defend there, and he almost touched, but John is going to be late on the brakes, and he will get the position. Of course, he's got that position before the DRS zone, though, so Jacko might come back at him here.
He's got a good bit more deployment to use, though, compared to Jacko, so he can use that to his advantage and defend. And let's see who gets the better exit of the 2 of them. John, it looks like, yeah, John just has way more traction, way more grip and confidence out there. And 1.5 seconds is the gap between Dom and John. Dom with about 10% more deployment at his disposal. But yeah, overtaking is one of the more difficult tracks to overtake. It's not impossible, but people certainly overtook me last night anyway. But Baza takes the fastest lap away from John Menzies. I think actually very close to John's fastest lap that he set. Speed Sully now all over the back of Neljak, so he'll be shaping up for a move pretty soon. Probably not in the middle sector, because it's a bit like a go-kart track in the middle sector. So probably not until Sector 3 or Sector 1. But look at this then, the gap at the front is already down to just a second.
It's round like turn 5, isn't it? Turn 5, and that chicane there at 6, 7, 8. That's where John finds so much time. And again, he's just closing right in through this middle sector. And the gap is just under a second now, and he will have DRS. Surely he might get a little bit distracted there by the Haas, but it won't matter. 8 tenths will be the gap as the Haas late on the brakes. But yeah, John's going to have DRS here. I don't think he'll be able to have a go just yet on this lap, but certainly the next one.
Yeah, he's just got way more grip and confidence. He's not even using the battery at this point because he knows he has that pace advantage. Dom also not using the battery up in front, or at least not at the end of the straight anyway, so gap fairly stable. I think Dom was considering running a bit less downforce around the track so that he can defend from people down the straights. So that may come very, very handy in this race, and I can see why if Dom and John, I know they have been doing a bit of practice together, and if well, I think Dom may have known about this potential race pace from John, so I think that's why he decided to do whatever John didn't do on lap 1 on the safety car. But I mean, look at this, he's just all over the back of him now.
Yeah, this is beginning to almost look like a done deal once they get back onto the start-finish straight. And it looks like John may well be on his way to winning his second race in a row. Dom is, I wonder if John might go for the move like where he did. Oh, he's hit the curb again! Way too much curb! Unbelievable. Well, he hasn't actually lost DRS. Yeah, but it might have prevented them from being able to have a go this time round. I just want to mention Neljak, who's actually closing in now on Jacko on those hard tyres. He's been on those hard tyre scores since the first lap. But of course, don't forget Speed Sully on those softs as well, who pit in the second safety car trying to get to the end. And Owen is beginning to close in.
Yeah, Owen potentially could soon join that battle. I mean, what is quicker? I mean, old mediums, old softs are fairly decent hards, and at the moment the hards are looking fairly decent as Chris Johnson sets a new fastest lap of this race, perhaps a little bit too far back to join in on this battle. But then again, he's seemingly closing in at a fairly decent rate, of course, with that fastest lap. The problem that Neljak has is that he has no deployment that he can use to attack. So Speed Sully does have a fair bit, but his tyres will be getting pretty ropey by the end of this, as John Menzies continues to attack on Dom.
Just looking again. And Speed Sully spun. He has on those soft tyres. Speed Sully has spun. Oh, and he's really struggling to get the car pointing forwards again here to get going, and that is terrible for his championship hopes. He's going to lose a load of positions now. But back up at the front, we've got John, and again, he's going through turn 11. He's not made that mistake taking too much curb, and he's surely going to have a go on this next lap. But interesting, very quickly to mention, look at Dom with 76% DRS here, which I'm sure he's about to deploy.
Yeah, and if he did go for the lower wing option, that will certainly help him as long as he can get a good exit through the corner. And it looks like he has just about done that. John now using the battery to defend. Dom feeling fairly comfortable out there. I think he's actually had a pretty good final corner. And John Menzies then doesn't have the straight line speed on this occasion to pass him with a little DRS straight, and Dom's pulled away on the exit. So John Menzies then, he may actually struggle to make this pass. And he's only got 2 laps.
Jacko and Neljak getting quite close there as well, but Jacko just managed to fend them off. This is Neljak on the hard tyres here, trying to get a fantastic podium. Well, and it'd be fantastic for Ferrari as well, of course, to get a double Ferrari podium in this race. As Jacko going through turn 4 there now, and but John again all over the back of Dom. Is John going to have to maybe try and think about a different place to overtake here if Dom's got so much pace down the straight?
He may need to, yeah. He may seemingly, he may try to find my wording. Need to make a lunge into turn 12 down at the end of this straight. I mean, not this lap. He's far too far away at this moment in time. But he will get another dust DRS. He needs a good final corner, and Neljak is still battling away with Jacko. He needs the DRS because he doesn't have any deployment, and it looks like he's still using it around the lap, which is pointless, really. So Jacko then taking a tight line into that final corner. That should compromise his exit, but Neljak takes way too much curb. Still gets the better exit of the two. And I thought we were going to have a Barrichello-Schumacher moment there, but Neljak has the inside line. They're both running out of deployment, and Neljak has the inside line. And there's nothing that Jacko can do unless he gets a much better exit. But of course, Neljak has the DRS for a second time, much shorter straight, so it's not as advantageous. But Neljak then, on the hard tyres, maybe just able to keep the temperatures down in that harder rubber. But he's ahead of Jacko, and he looks pretty safe heading into turn 4.
And at the front, Dom managed to easily stay ahead of John that time round as well. He's done so well to save up that ERS. Look, now he's down to 20%. He used it all on the start of that lap, and it's helped him massively. And it looks like Dom actually may well win this, despite John having so much pace. Clearly looking like the faster driver by a way big margin coming into this event. But it looks like, unless John can go for a very late dive bomb, Dom is going to take the win here.
Yeah, John with just so much more pace through the corners, but just couldn't find the straight line speed that he needed. And there's just one more corner now for Dom. It's been a fantastic drive from the Ferrari driver. Pitted on lap 1, has done 17 laps on these tyres, and Dom Smith wins in Hungary. Fantastic drive from the Ferrari driver. Also fantastic driving from John Menzies to come through after that second safety car. Neljak completing the podium. Fantastic drive from him. Double podium for Ferrari. Jacko is 4th, with Chris Johnson then making his way back up into P5 despite the strategy really not working in his favour. Owen, after all his trials and tribulations, somehow salvages the top 6, but you have to feel that it could have been a whole lot more than that.
Yeah, but he got a penalty on the final corner. I think he must have track extended on the exit of the final corner and got a 3-second penalty.
Oh. Actually, yeah, so I did think I saw something.
Yeah, he's dropped the position there, hasn't he?
Well, he must have done, yeah. So that's given Chris Johnson the top 5 as Speed Sully smashes the fastest lap. I think that's a good 6/10 quicker than anything else we've seen in this race. Indecisive Mackie, a solid P7 there. Just basically surviving until the end and picking up a solid result. Baza then ends up in 8th, with Jack Craig in 9th, Speed Sully 10th. Mick Schumacher was in P11 with Joe. Joe ended up down in P12 after all of that, and we'll just get the rest of the grid as we find out. Driver of the day was apparently Mick Schumacher, who played a major role in this race. But anyway, here we go then, the special Giallo Modena race suit. Divisive.
He's going
to
bring the steering wheel to the podium, isn't he? Yeah, there you go.
Breaking park framing regulations, but anyway.
Again.
Yeah, he lifts the generic F1 trophy. And that hairstyle for the women is still... still very popular, I see, with literally every single employee having it. Interesting choice by the developers, but okay. Anyway, it was Mr. John and Red Bull Kim completing the points. We'll just run through the full grid. So Dom then taking a very narrow victory over John Menzies with Neljak. Then you do wonder maybe if he was on the mediums, he actually probably still would have finished 3rd. So great drive from Neljak, with Jacko unable to hold on to that podium, finishing in P4. Chris Johnson, with Owen's penalty at the very end, jumps up into 5th. Owen then, after all his issues in that race, still gets a top 6. Indecisive Mackie a solid 7th, with Baza, Jack Craig and Speed Sully rounding out the top 10. Mick Schumacher, the driver of the day, apparently, in P11, with Sayre Sports, Mr. John and Red Bull Kim completing the points, followed by Angel vs. Death and Mike Noon. And the retirees from this race, of course, the first one was Kaya on lap 1 at turn number 3.
Okay then, so the guys will now be back in the lobby and we'll be getting ready for the next race in Spa, while I just try and work out the current championship standings after that race. And it's obviously going to be quite a lead now, isn't it, for Dom?
Yes, a lead, which at the moment I'll leave you to do the calculations on that one. But we're getting ready to go now in Belgium, where well, it's a vastly different circuit in terms of car setup. I think most people are opting for low downforce because if you don't have low downforce, you'll get overtaken. You won't be able to overtake, and I think it's kind of left drivers with only one real choice. So it should be an interesting one because it's a difficult track to well, just survive on, really, given the combination of the track and game physics.
Yeah, I think I know Dom is certainly not looking forward to this one, is he?
I wasn't either last night, so.
Okay, so latest championship standings after that race then. We have Dom on 218 points. And then we have Gian on 166 points. So it is a 52 point gap now in the championship between Dom and John. And then we have Owen on 153 and Sully on 145. You on mute again, Roy?
Just having a quick drink. Sort of forgot to do that for a while. Yeah, this should be an interesting one. It's
yeah, so basically it's a big lead for Dom right now. It's a big lead for Dom.
52 points, not insurmountable.
Yeah, and 2 races, of course, so he's not going to be here for. So you know that is the maximum amount of points you can get, of course, to the 2 wins and the 2 fastest laps. So basically, Dom's cancelled out the 2 races that he won't be here for, but he will have to still try and, no doubt, want to extend his lead even further, just as a insurance going into those couple of weeks that he's going to miss, or that week he's going to miss, and there's a couple of races he'll miss in a few weeks' time around Japan and America. But anyway, this is Spa, and let's see, interesting, of course, to see what the weather's going to be like around here. I think some people were hoping for rain yesterday, TP1, and it certainly looks like a dry start to this session, at least. It does look quite cloudy, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, potentially some rain in the air. We'll find out. We'll get a weather report sent over whenever we get it.
Yeah, we will indeed, but it certainly looks at the minute.
Mercedes getting ready already in the bottom right of my screen.
I believe it is going to be a dry race, but it is 20% chance of rain. So, but it is apparently going to still be dry. So it looks as though we will have escaped the wet weather, but it is going to be dry, and it's not going to be very sunny over the track, which I assume would mean a lower track temperature, which might help the tyres slightly around here, which has been very difficult to handle. But or maybe not, because obviously we don't really know how much of an effect it actually has on the game.
I don't know if Codemasters do either, to be honest. But anyway,
yeah,
it's a very difficult track to execute, which shouldn't really be the case because, in nearly every other game, and I feel like in real life as well at this point, it's not a particularly difficult track. At least it's not a track where you see a whole lot of people crashing on their own.
Yeah, it's true.
It's whatever they've done to this track, whatever they've done with the car physics, it's an absolute nightmare to drive around here. At least I find, and I'm not the only one. So it's a shame though, because it is a great track normally, but I do not gel with. I haven't gelled with Spa on an F1 game since I think 2012. And Indecisive Mackie also having similar
yeah, at Eau Rouge.
But
he's crashed at Eau Rouge.
Yeah, all I did yesterday in the race, I suppose, was just kind of survive. Put in a half decent qualifying lap and survive, and you'll probably get a result that's better than you expect. So I think that should be the aim for most people. Just survive and try to do more than 3 corners on your outlap. But
Yeah, I think we are going to have a few DNFs around here, aren't we? And there is going to be quite a lot of incidents. But just let me just make sure and see that the safety car is indeed 100% turned off for this race, and it is turned off for this race, the safety car. So yeah, so this is obviously it's only going to be an 11-lap race, of course. And as you say, I think if you can just survive and not make any errors, you might end up getting a decent amount of points on the board.
As we have the first few drivers coming across the line to set a flying lap. Is that another McLaren in the...
It's Wheelnut's gone off at Eau Rouge as well now, but he is not DNF'd, crucially.
So still in the session. Let's just check on him. Does he have any damage on that car? Is he able to get back on the track? Is still got some bits of his wing at least. And was that just a spin? I think it might have been, actually. So he can carry on his way. Actually, no, he can't, because that was his flying lap. So
yeah, it was. And Mike Noon spun as well a little bit further round on the track as well. So he's gone off. That's just after Bruce Shells, I believe the corner's called, isn't it? What happens?
He nearly rejoined in front of Jacko. Don't know if Jacko was impeded on that. Jacko is on a lap, of course. But let's see, who was the first driver on the road? I think it's a Haas. It could be Red Bull Kim. Indeed it is. So Red Bull Kim will set the first of the timed laps around this track. Still valid so far. He's only got the bus stop chicane to go. Sort of misses the apex at Blanchimont, which is impressive. But let's see how he negotiates the bus stop chicane ever so slightly deep, and then turns in a bit early. And Mike Noon's out of the session. Where is he crashed? He's crashed where Giovinazzi crashed.
Yeah, but I think he might have got a bit of help. It looked to me as though Neljak was right behind him. And I don't know if Neljak tagged it. Yeah, Neljak's got no front wing look. I think Mike Noon was moving out the way, because I watched another driver afterwards, but the Ferrari was coming up behind, and I think they might have collided, just to maybe a misunderstanding there. And Neljak's obviously going to have the pit because he got no front wing.
Well, drama here already in GP2 as Sully takes provisional pole by just 9/10 of a second. Kaya's having his own moment. Let's see, John Menzies then, he is in the final sector. About to set his first flying lap of the session. Let me get a bit of info on the screen. Don't know why it disappears. But John then into the bus stop chicane.
Well, he's been on fire lately, John. He really has, hasn't he? He wants this championship. He'll be fuming that he didn't win that race in Hungary. But look at that. It's a good early first lap, and he's put it on the front row, or not on the front row, on pole. But Dom's just round the corner here, about to cross the line as well. His first lap is third place for Dom, and quite a fair way off.
Yeah, and still plenty of time left to go in the session. He will still get 2 more runs, but yeah, I suppose he's sort of got a solid-ish banker lap in there. And I know from obviously experience, 24 hours ago, that it is difficult to set a qualifying lap. I only really got 1 decent lap in at the very end. And it's lots of places you can invalidate your lap, lots of places you can spin, crash, etc. And yeah, it's just very, very difficult to nail a lap around here. But who else? Flying laps?
I mean, look at we're 6 minutes into the session, and we've had eight laps. That's all. So yeah, that really illustrates the points, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think Blair Grills may make that 9 as he slots into P7. Not a fantastic lap from Blair Grills in the AlphaTauri. How is Chris Johnson going to fare? He is not going to add to that list, as he has invalidated his lap. Baza then round the final corner. Let's see what the Mercedes driver can do. He crosses the line. It's P8 for him at the moment. 46.6 is 2 seconds off. 2 seconds and 1,000th off provisional pole set by John Menzies. Still early days in this session. Is Mick Schumacher on a lap? It's invalid, so no. Same for Angel versus Death, so I don't think anyone's on a flyer at the moment.
I think Blair Wells might have gone for another lap there, but then he spun at Eau Rouge, but did not DNF, so he's still in the game for the time being then, as most of the drivers, of course, are now making their way back to the pits. Is Owen on a lap yet, or is he about to box? No, I think he's boxing, isn't he? Yeah, he is boxing. So a lot of the drivers coming in, and as you say, you can get 3 runs in, but of course it is the longest track on the calendar, so it takes a bit of time to get in and out. So it takes a while. You have to be quick and get it all done swiftly. It's a shame the mechanics can't be a little bit quicker when they're wheeling your car back into the pit lane.
Yeah, that's something I've never really understood. They really need to sort that out. But we've got Jack Craig and Wheelnut on flying laps. Jack Craig a little bit further up the circuit. And Jack Craig is a driver who, on his day, does have a good bit of pace. So let's see where the Williams driver can end up in this session. He sets a first sector of some amount of time. No
30.3 it was.
Yeah, no comparison to anything.
Let's see, what was John's? John's was a 30.5, so that's actually a very good first sector for Jack. Is that possibly an indication that he is running less downforce, perhaps?
Possibly, actually. He's got a bit of a slide through Liège, I believe they call it. Some people like to call it no-name corner, but if anything, it has more names than any other corner on the track. But maybe that's why they call it no-name corner, because no one can agree on it. But Jack Craig then through the second sector. It's very slidey through here. The whole track is just very low grip for some bizarre reason. This corner here is horrible.
Yeah.
And here as well.
I had a massive moment there for my quickest time yesterday in TGP1 at that corner, and then looked to improve and was improving for my final lap, and then my wheel broke. So yeah.
Yeah, a strange plug disconnection, but
yeah.
But anyway, let's see how Jack Craig gets on. I think he's on a controller, so should hopefully have no such issues. And straight away up into P4. Well, I think he set a lap before, but it was invalid. So yeah, it's his first lap there on the board for Jack Craig. As who was that? I think that was Nail Jack popping up into P9. Chris Johnson is not on a lap. He's on an in lap. He's not using his deployment anyway, so it's not a flying lap anyway. And Wheelnut, I think, he invalidated his lap, so he's into the pits. Jacko, I think, is on a flying lap at the moment. Is any of the drivers further up the grid? I think Dom is potentially on a flying lap. Oh, no, he's not.
We have got Speed Sully just starting a lap now as well. I think the majority of the drivers that was seen to be on out laps right now. Or there was Owen on a lap a bit further round. No, he's not. So Speed Sully, 29.8 first sector for him. So is he perhaps running a little bit higher wings? Of course, it also depends if you're brave enough to take Eau Rouge flat out, which is a bit more trickier on this game, isn't it?
Do you know what? It's weird, like, because I actually haven't had issues at that corner. I've had issues at like every other corner. But it's weird, that one was fine for me for whatever reason. But yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm just a bit odd with my my driving. Maybe my setup was a bit strange. But let's see how Speed Sully gets on in the second sector. Hopefully better than the AlphaTauri of Blair Grills, who we just passed, who's putting around. He's half a second up on his previous lap, which would be good enough for provisional pole if he can match his final sector, which is effectively two corners in a modern Formula 1 car. Maybe they should tighten Blanchimont up a bit and add a bit of spice back to the track. But Speed Sully then into the final chicane, a little bit deep, you could say, as the Aston Martin decides whether or not he wants to get in the way. And
that was John. That's John, that.
Oh, that could be quite controversial then. If Speed Sully does take provisional pole, but John Menzies then probably would have been better off just carrying on like a normal... like it was a normal lap, but John Menzies then is now on a lap. I think Owen is also on a lap. It seems that the graphics a little bit broken, because Dom and Owen were on out laps when I was looking at them, but the game didn't tell me that they were. So they were indeed on out laps. But here we go then. At the end of their flying laps, Dom Smith then crosses the line. And it will be a huge improvement in time, but doesn't actually move up any places. And Owen pits.
Owen's pitted. I've also noticed something really interesting. Dom's last lap, just a minute ago, that he's just completed there, on the run to Lake Com, down the Kemmel Straight, he hit 213 miles per hour. John Menzies, has nearly lost it there through Pouon, but, and somewhat ironically, John only hit 207. So that would seem to indicate he's running slightly higher downforce, or certainly perhaps a lot higher downforce, but it didn't help him there through P1 because he very nearly put it in the barrier. I don't know what speed Sully's running though, so look out for that on the next lap. I'll make sure to try and find out.
Yeah, I think John Menzies then opting for perhaps a bit of stability and pace in that middle sector, but he's kind of relying on himself really leading at Le Combe on turn 1. But I mean, if you're 6 miles an hour slower down the straight, I mean that's a tough ask to hold on. So yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. You're kind of almost trapped into a low downforce setup around here.
Yeah, and as you say, if he does get, if he really is running really quite high wings, he will get, you would imagine, challenged quite a lot on certainly the first lap on the run to Le Combe. But just watching to see who else is on a lap at the minute.
M-Shep?
And is M-Shep on a lap? Yes, he is on a lap, isn't he?
100% deployment. It's that glitched out lap.
Wheelnut's on a lap. Wheelnut's on a lap here in 18th place. He hasn't actually got registered lap time yet, but he is on a lap. Bit dodgy through there, but 1:17.1. Oh, couldn't go flat out through that corner. What's it called? I just forget what that corner's called.
I think Paul Frere curve. Yeah, people call it different things.
Yeah, but we'll see what Wheelnut can do here then, as he is about to slam on the brakes for the bus stop chicane. And I thought he wasn't going to make it there, but it was it was an interesting line, has to be said. But he'll cross the line, and he will go into 10th.
He won't have time to set another lap though, so I think that's Wheelnut's session done. I mean, he maybe would have had time if the mechanics actually had, any motivation to get the car out, but alas, P10 at best for Wheelnut, so not a strong session there for the McLaren driver. Neljak is on a lap. Chris Johnson staying in the pits for now. He'll have one more attempt. He's got no time on the board though.
Looks like M-Chef may have, who then was pushing for the lap, lost the car at Malmedy. Yeah, there he is in the wall there, and Wheelnut also nearly lost it as he was on his lap coming through Le Combe there. So he would have lost a lot of time. Oh, there's a Alpine who went way wide there. Who is that? Oh, Blake Grill's just hit the wall coming into the pit lane.
I've done that before. It's an awful pit entry. I don't know why they don't sort that out, but the wall kind of juts out on the inside. They should really move that inwards and give us a bit more space, but anyway,
that's it. That's him out now, and he hit the pit wall, and obviously because it was in the pit lane, his car reset back onto the track directly on the racing line.
I love that. Not distracting in any way whatsoever.
No, of course not.
Neljak then is on his lap and using up plenty of the track. Misses the apex there ever so slightly. It's a bit off camber and there's absolutely zero grip there. But anyway, he's 3.5 tenths up on his time as the car moves very much out the way there. And let's see what kind of speeds he's reaching. There's no real point in me saying it for UK and Irish viewers because it's 319 kilometers an hour. Doesn't really mean much to me because I don't know what anyone else is doing, but Neljak crosses the line. He goes from 11th up to 9th.
Oh my word, look at this. Look at John Menzies and look at where Say Sports came out of the pit lane. This is like what Ferrari done in Spa. This is absolutely perfect timing. You timed this.
It's too far away.
Do you think?
Yeah.
I don't think it's that. Well, let's see. 200 miles per hour, 202, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is more than the last lap. Well, he actually only really got 1 mile per hour improvement, and he's actually down on a previous lap that he set, so it didn't really work in the end, but it nearly did.
Yeah, Slipstream's useless on this game. You have to be like in someone's gearbox to actually get any benefit. He's already bailed out of it.
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
Has he bailed out of that? And Speed Sully, by the way, was doing 2:15, so I think he must be running pretty much one wings, because that's what I ran yesterday, and I was reaching 2:15. Dom hit 2:13 earlier, because this is all important information for the race itself, because these guys are all now on the final runs, and you said it looks like John is not going to improve. Can Speed Sully improve on the current pole lap?
which of course is himself. Did I
Yeah.
miss that? I don't recall. Oh, well, he's not going to improve it.
Oh, he's
Because,
invalidated it.
yeah, too
Yeah.
wide at Puon, and John Menzies won't improve. I don't think he has. He may. I don't think he has the time. It's going to
Well,
be
yeah, of
very
course.
tight.
He might have lost a little bit of time at the end of the lap. Remember when he got held up slightly by John as Dom's ran wide the poo on, so that could be his lap gone as well. Is John Menzies going to get around here?
I think
He
he
got
will.
86% ERS as well, so I imagine that will be good enough, and he will be able to go for one more lap here. And let's just see what Dom's middle sector is going to be, because he's
Ooh.
slightly up, but not massively. Oh, and he's lost it!
Oh!
He's lost it at pole three. He's done a Kieran, and he's hit the wall, and big damage. Owen is just coming round the corner now as well. Speed Sully's pitted. Owen's 3/10 up.
Jack Craig will cross the line just before him. He, of course, in the top 5 in this session. So it was a bit wide there through Blanchimont. Let's see how he tackles this final chicane. Quite nicely, actually, in the first part of it. Slightly laggy, I've got to say. But Jack Craig then crosses the line, and he will do nothing of note. So Mir Quenby then crosses the line in the AlphaTauri. Will it be pole position? Yes, it will, by 2/10 of a second. I think this is a favourite track of Owen's. He tends to do very well around here, tends to have a good deal of pace. John Menzies then pretty much matching his first sector from his previous lap. Now the second sector will be very crucial here for John, because this is where he should gain on the others if he is running more downforce. So should be through here that John Menzies finds the extra bit of time. So let's see what this second sector split is like as he gets,
Go through there.
yeah, decent
Oh,
exit. But
he's still down though.
Down though, and well, he's not going to gain time on the others in that final sector, you'd imagine.
Yeah,
So
unless of course he had a wobble on his previous lap through the bus stop chicane at the end of the lap, it's not going to be a big improvement. I don't think he's going to find 4/10 to improve.
no,
On pole.
maybe P2 at best if he messed up the final chicane, and that's ever so slightly deep through there, maybe a bit too much curb, and not an ideal exit there. But let's see what he can do. Then crosses the line. He didn't improve. No, he will stay P3, and well, he just about salvaged enough to do a second lap. But the thing is, though, the softs don't last around here. It's a very long lap, and it's very demanding on the tyres.
This is going to be so interesting. So we got Owen on pole. I think he's done 2:13. I think I noticed with him. So round about the same as Dom. But then you got Speed Sully in second, who I'm sure must be running as close as you can really to Euro Zero wings, because he was done 2:15. Dom done 2:30 as well. But then John is the big outlier, because he really was not quick in a straight line there, and will that have an effect at the start of the race?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Do you want to lead out of turn one? I think a lot of drivers probably won't. I mean, John Menzies definitely won't, so he'll be hoping for an okay start off the line. But Merrick Quemby then taking an excellent pole position ahead of Speed Sully, with John Menzies down in, well, I say down, he's in the lofty position of P3. But Dom Smith then is joining him on the second row, championship leader, of course, and by some margin. But I think he'll be happy enough with P4. It's definitely not a favourite track of his. Jack Craig is fifth, with Blair Grills in P6, and there's the timer. I was worried it wasn't going to come up there.
Yeah, same.
Sayer Sports in P7, with Chris Johnson not able to replicate the pace he had in Hungary in P8. Jacko and Nell Jack complete the top 10, with M. Shep in P11. Will not slip down to 12th. Oh, and the timer ended. Okay, well, that was not 30 seconds. But
just looking at the seconds hands between Speed Sully and John there, who obviously seems to have the biggest differences in downforce levels, and John is nearly a second quicker in the middle sector, but obviously Speed Sully finds all the time in the first and third sector to bring it back in his favour. So how's this going to play out then in the race? It is only 11 laps, remember, but of course, what tyres are these guys going to start on?
Yeah, it almost feels like John has to do something a little bit different with the strategy, because he's going to have to utilise clean air at some point, you would imagine. So maybe he'll opt for mediums at the start. But yeah, that is a significant straight line deficit, especially with a straight as long as the Kemmel Straight. But we're ready to go racing here in a overcast Spa-Francorchamps circuit. We've got 5 lights on the gantry. And we are away in Belgium. It looks like a fairly solid start there from Owen. Looks like a decent start from Dom. He's up into P3, trying to go around the outside of John Menzies there, but John Menzies holds onto the position. Dom is on the medium compound tyre. Speed Sully has taken off, and he now leads this race. He got ahead of Owen out of turn number 1, but it's Owen who will have the slipstream, but he's gone very wide through Radion. He backs off the throttle there. And Dom is all over the back of John Menzies already, with Jack Craig also joining in this fight. And John Menzies then lacking a lot of straight line speed. He's just falling behind. Sayre Sports is now up the inside, but next to teammate through, there's a collision between collision between Dom and John. John Menzies got involved there. Now Jack having to slam on the brakes to avoid it. And John Menzies down into P8. You'd imagine he probably has a bit of damage there when he hit the... he does indeed have a fair bit of damage when he collided with Dom there, who had his own collision with, I believe that was Jack Craig in the Williams. He's now in P20, P last. And Speed Sully and Mayor Quemby then managed to escape unscathed, with Sayre Sports now up into the podium places.
High drama there then. That is crucial for the championship. But of all the drivers for John to then spin into, it was John, his current main championship contender. Oh, and Shepherd has a big moment just ahead of John there, just trying to see if John's got damage. Of course, I mean, this is a disaster for John. He's got front wing damage, I'm pretty sure of it. And of course, he's not quick in a straight line. So really, it's just terrible both ways for him. He's going to have to pit, isn't he? Good job. Well, actually, no, he's on the mediums, isn't he?
Yeah, he's going to pit for hard.
It's disastrous. It's an absolute disaster for John.
And he's about to be overtaken by the Ferrari of Nell, Jack. And I'm amazed they made it through there. I think John should just backed off there, and hopefully he's... Oh no, he is pitting.
No,
okay.
He's coming in.
I thought he was carrying on there, but no, he has to pit with a wing in that state. You'd imagine Dom sustained damage. Maybe not, actually.
He stayed out, Dom. Dom stayed out.
He doesn't have anywhere near the level of damage.
Here's just look, at the front, meanwhile, starting the second lap. They've got a big lead, these two, at the minute, with Joe Sayre in third. And Owen is deploying his ERS. Speed Sully is not. So Owen might have a bit of a run here. Speed Sully having to defend. Are they going to reach the corner first, though? Is Speed Sully going to stay ahead? Late on the brakes, Owen! Very late on the brakes! Runs off the track. Is he going to have to give that position back? Speed Sully gets it back. And I think that's probably fair, because Owen did end up running off there.
Yeah, Owen not really making the corner there, but he does look a good bit quicker than Sully at this initial stage anyway. And he actually has more deployment than Sully ahead of him. So Owen then looking pretty handy. I noticed yesterday the deployment actually regenerates around here quite easily, which I'm very surprised by, because there's not that much heavy braking around here. But Mayor Quemby looking all over the back of Sully right now, clearly having a lot more pace and confidence in the car. And Owen typically does better in the races compared to qualifying, and Owen qualified in pole position. So what does that say about his race pace?
As Shepherd spun, he nearly spun there on the first lap. And there's a Ferrari off as well. Is that Dom? Dom went on. No, Neljak, sorry, it was Neljak.
There's Baz.
And Baz has crashed ahead as well. So carnage through the final chicane there. But Baz out the race. Dom in 9th now then. And Shep will have dropped down as well. But at the front, is Owen going to have a go here? Because this is Speed Sully and Owen. Speed Sully is going to miss the week that Dom misses as well. So that's obviously not great for his championship. But certainly for Owen, this is perfect for him. Dom down the order. And he is fighting for victory here.
Yeah,
and DRS will be enabled now, of course.
Exactly what Owen needs, and yeah, you'd imagine with the DRS and the extra deployment at his disposal, which he's already using a bit of on the run down to Eau Rouge, you'd imagine Owen then is in prime position to make the overtake, and even before they reach the DRS zone, he's all over the back of that Alpine ahead of him. Sully takes the inside line, but I don't think it's really going to be of any use, as Owen then pulls ahead of the Alpine, and Sully has to tuck in behind, because Owen now leads this race, and now will hopefully in the clean air be able to drive away into the distance.
Yeah, so it's crucial now for Owen to use that slight bit of extra downforce we think he has to sort of pull away here in this middle sector, and to try and pull away enough to take away any DRS advantage that Speed Sully will have on the next lap, because he is running very low on the wings, we think. So can Owen pull away? It's very wide, the Puon. It might have got a warning for that. Might have picked up a warning there, but if he can pull away, it'll be good for him. But Speed Sully's still right there, slightly dropping off a little bit through finding chicane. Owen pulling away slightly there, and actually Speed Sayer, Sayer's sportsman is catching up to Speed Sully.
Yeah, I didn't realise he changed allegiances, but yeah, Sayre Sports. Just outside of a second of Speed Sully ahead. He's used a lot more deployment at this stage.
Owen's got a penalty. Owen has got a penalty.
He's going to have to not get any more warning. He's got a penalty on lap 3 of the race. You'd imagine he probably picked one up on lap 1 when he went off the track at Radion. And Speed Sully very much within the DRS. And we think, having slightly more straight line speed, that it's going to be hard for Owen to pull away here. But he does look to be the faster driver. He just needs to go clear of a second. But Speed Sully is going to make up a good bit of time here down the straight, you would imagine.
I think he's just within DRS, is he? Just Owen using his ERS quite a bit, but now Speed Sully uses his, and Speed Sully is within the DRS, but he's actually not using ERS, and neither is Owen. So yeah, Speed Sully does gain a little bit. In fact, he gains 2/10, but it's nowhere near enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, he will be happy with that. Like I said, if that was John who was ahead there, he may well have been right on the back of him, but I think Owen probably has just about enough straight line speed that he managed to stay ahead by quite a decent margin there. Blair Gills also has a penalty, so both AlphaTauris have penalties, but Blair Gills looking decent as well on the soft tyres in 4th place. Of course, tyres will play a part in a minute, of course, especially with pit stops, which will be on the way shortly.
Yeah, it's actually around about now that the soft tyre runners will be deciding to come into the pits, because they really do not last a long time around this track. And actually, let's just see, John Menzies, did he opt for the hards? Yes, he did. There was no way he was going to get through 10 uninterrupted laps around this track. So Owen then already 1.8 seconds clear of Sully behind. I think Sully may have actually cut the top of Radion on that last lap from the angle that I had. It looked like he did. So I don't think Sully is warning free in this race. But already then basically 2 seconds behind. Yeah, he now is 2 seconds behind the AlphaTauri driver. So Owen then, you'd imagine, would be able to pull away by 3 seconds.
He's coming in, Speed Sully's coming in, and so is Blair Grills as well. Blair Grills was right on the back of Joe Sayer there, so Blair Grills comes into the pit lane and he might be able to get an undercut on him. We'll shall see. Dom just passed Jacko as well on that previous lap, so Dom obviously he jumps up to 6th place, but of course still has to pit. And Owen now has to he just has to go for try and get an overcut here, try and fly on this lap and try and build a 3 seconds advantage.
And he's doing that. He's using his deployment on the exit of Radion there. He knows what he needs to do. He has the advantage of the warm, soft tyres. Yes, they will be a bit worn, but they'll probably be in a better position than Sully's. And of course, he did have a 2 second margin to play with anyway, as he has a bit of a moment there on the exit of Malmedy. But I mean, I'm sure that's the case for most drivers around this track. But Owen then, he did use a bit of deployment on the straight. He knows what he needs to do. But it just looks like he has the pace anyway. I feel like he'd be able to make the move. And of course, Speed Sully does have cold tyres and is dropping off a lot from Jack Craig ahead of him. Mike Noon out of the race. He's really struggling with this game. Don't think he has a whole lot of experience on it. But yeah, he's not adapting to it as quick as he would have perhaps hoped. As Jacko then not letting Dom go.
Oh, look at that. Jack Craig has just overtaken Mick Schumacher. What is going on between these guys? Jack Craig passed Mick Schumacher and then had to give the place back, I think, possibly because of yellow flags, I wonder. And then it slowed down again, and now Speed Sully is going to get involved here, and this may be terrible for his race. He does not want to get involved in any silliness going on here. Can he get ahead of Mick Schumacher? Oh, Mick Schumacher, don't be late on the brakes. And I think he's just about managed to get away with that, Speed Sully, as Owen pits, but I think he would have lost a little bit of time there.
Yeah, I think that probably would have just cancelled out the advantage that he would have had due to any sort of undercut there. So Owen then into the pits, the logical decision. Jacko also coming into the pits behind him. As Owen Quimby then no issues in the pits, gets to charge up his battery a little bit as well for good measure. And Sully then, he's got a full battery to use, but Owen's already out the pits. So,
yeah, he's way ahead. Obviously Owen will have to bring those tyres to temperature, but Speed Sully just completing the source now. And yeah, that is looking good for him. Wheelnut and Say Sports going side by side here. This is for the current lead of the race, but of course they're both yet to pit, both on the mediums, and Wheelnut just got the move done at Lake Holm there on Joe Sayer. And this will be interesting because, of course, Blair Grylls pit, and he was right on the back of Joe Sayer a couple of laps ago, so Blair Grylls may well benefit quite a bit if these guys fight any longer.
Yeah, and John Menzies then, he's up into P13. Just going to see which drivers have made a stop in this race, and there's not actually that many ahead of John who have yet to pit. There's Kaya, Angel vs Death, Jack Craig, M. Shep, Dom, well, the top five, but I don't think he'll be within range of the top five really, so you'd imagine he's probably only going to gain 2-3 places, and their sports then I think had a bit of lag going on there. I don't know what happened there, but he's in the slipstream of Daniel P. Wheelnut, but he does not have a lot of deployment. I mean, Wheelnut doesn't have a huge amount, but he's got twice the amount of Joe.
Yeah, well, let's see if one of the two of them are they going to pit here. Oh, Wheelnut very deep there, and he does decide to come in, and Joe Sayer's going to try and go for the undercut then. So Wheelnut comes into the pit lane. It will be interesting to see where Blair Grylls comes out there in relation. Dom stays out, and Speed Sully is, I think he's struggling quite a bit here, behind Jack Craig, although, of course, now he will be able to catch up quite a bit, and Jack Craig actually now comes into the pit lane.
Oh, that was not a good chicane there from Speed Sully. Blair Grylls now all over the back of him. Yeah, I don't think the low downforce setup that Sully has going on, I don't think it's working on slightly higher fuel and medium tires. Wheelnut has somehow jumped. Well, probably won't jump. Let's see, are they going to go side by side? Oh, well, I think they are just about. Oh, well, Speed Sully had the speed over Wheelnut. Wheelnut will get the DRS.
Oh, no, he won't get the DRS. None of them did. None of them got the DRS there.
They told me Wheelnut
Blair Grylls might be able to catch up a little bit there then. So Wheelnut's benefited so much. He had a fantastic couple of late laps in that first stint there. This is going to be interesting then. Where will Joe come out with this? If he's got to be pushing. I hope Joe Sayer is pushing very hard on this lap here, because it could be quite close between Wheelnut and Blair Grylls, and maybe even Speed Sully on the pit exit. But look at the lead Owen has right now. It was for 8.3 seconds.
And you know what? I'm actually not too surprised by this. When it comes to Spa, I would have always thought that Owen would be a favourite for the race win in TGP2, and he's proving exactly why. Even with that penalty, he's still net 5 seconds clear, as Mick Schumacher has an incident at Malmedy and retires from the race driver of the day in Hungary, but I don't think he'll be replicating that feat in Belgium. But yeah, 8 seconds clear his own compared to Speed Sully, with the top two of Joe and Dom yet to pitch. Surely Joe pits this lap. Yes, he does. And hopefully then Joe Sayer can join in on this battle.
The one to watch here is between Wheelnut and Blair Grylls, of course. But Wheelnut and Blair Grylls are battling right now. And Wheelnut looked like a pretty late defensive move there to me. But anyway, he's got through the corner. And look at Chris Johnson as well, right on the back of these guys now as well. So where is Joe Sayer and where is Dom? Are they both going to get out ahead? It's going to be... Oh! And Blair Grylls has spun. Blair Grylls has spun, but he's actually recovered good enough that actually he managed to get ahead of Dom still. But he definitely lost time there to Joe Sayer.
Yeah, so Blair Grylls then with a huge moment there at the source. Joe Sayer will have DRS on Chris Johnson ahead of him. Oh dear, the drivers with the weakest internet connections racing with each other. Joe does not have the temperature.
Dom sent one on Blair Grylls there, and Jacko is also now getting involved. This is fantastic stuff. They're all coming together here, and fantastic driving, you have to say, from them all to not have any major incidents, although Blair Grylls did just have a half spin, of course. But Blair Grylls must be fuming with that. I only caught the end of it. I don't know if he got tagged or if he hit someone.
Hit the wall with the cold
hit something now.
Or maybe hot tyres because he spun.
Yeah. Blair Grylls definitely out of contention now for any sort of significant results. That's a huge shame for him, and it all stemmed really from that turn one. Really interested to know if he possibly did he maybe tag the back of Wheelnut, maybe sent him into a half spin perhaps. That might be what happened there. But Blair Grylls, I'm pretty sure he has damage now. And at the front, it's Chris Johnson who's really flying. He may have dodgy internet, but he is absolutely flying on the track, and he may well be able to get a podium here. He's got a penalty though, but he might have the pace to pull through second at this rate. And of course he's got his shield as well of having a dodgy connection. So people may not want to be too close to him.
That's the thing. I don't think Joe's is 100% solid either, so this could make for some interesting viewing. But Chris Johnson has the DRS on Wheelnut himself, and Sarah Sports looks quicker than the two of them. And I think that's the Haas of Red Bull Kim having an incident behind. Blair Grills retires from the session. He's retired in the pits. Probably could have salvaged some points there, but opting not to. That promotes Red Bull Kim up into P14. But Chris Johnson then is under threat from Joe Sayer, who doesn't have a huge amount of deployment, but he has a huge amount of straight line speed. Look at this. Is he going to go around the outside of the Red Bull driver? Will Chris Johnson give him the space? He understeers a little bit but backs out of it, and Joe Sayer then very nicely done around the outside as Chris Johnson's car has a bit of a spasm in anger there at being passed. But Dom is all over the back now of Chris Johnson. Dom will not be happy to be in this position. Of course, he had that collision with Jack Craig on lap 1. Not entirely sure if anyone was at fault in particular there, but they both ended up pretty far down the order afterwards. But Chris Johnson then overtaken by Joe, but that's given Wheelnut a bit of breathing room. But of course, Wheelnut, I think he pitted a lap earlier than Joe, so we'll have slightly more deg on the tyres, and actually Joe's already within a second of Wheelnut. So can Joe take a podium in this race?
We shall find out then, but Dom is going to be all over Chris Johnson, you would imagine, on the next with the DRS zone. I get the impression Chris Johnson's running quite a lot of downforce as well, actually, and Dom's catching up massively here. There's no real need to send one. I suppose he can just try and have a go in a more calmer fashion in a minute. Oh, and Chris Johnson, he loses it there. And, well, the advantage is that that's just dropped him out of DRS for the next lap for Dom, but also he's lost a bit of time as well. Jacko's had a half spin as well behind at the bus stop chicane and continues on his way. But surely Dom will be all over Chris Johnson here. Will say it's brought to be all over Wheelnut. Wheelnut, it pulls away every single time there at La Source.
Yeah, Joe must be struggling then with the low speed corners on this circuit, because he pulls it right back in the middle sector, and I mean Dom's already just dispatched Chris Johnson.
Yeah,
with no real Chris Johnson with zero answer.
I think Chris Johnson might be running even higher downforce than John, to be honest. John Menzies is here.
Quite possibly,
yeah. So what's happened?
I thought John was about to be overtaken by Neljak there. John not having a fantastic race, currently P9, and through no fault of his own as well. He got caught up in an incident ahead of him, but he's on the hard compound tyres, which worked for Neljak in the last race, but I don't think it really works around Spa. But John then pulling away a little bit on the Ferrari driver ahead of him, who still using his deployment in unnecessary places. He's better off saving it up. I say it every time, but I don't really seem to be listened to. But Owen then, do you know what, actually, since a few laps have passed, the gap has gone from 8.3 to around 8.3, 8.21. Like, it's,
yeah,
the pace has actually evened out a lot between the top two. Of course, it's actually a 5.1 second gap with Owen's penalty, and Jacko's had a bit of a moment. He's actually had a lot of a moment there, as he's had a spin at the Paul Frere curve and is overtaken by Jack Craig, who of course was P20 on lap 1 as he recovered from the incident with Dom. So Jacko then out of the top 10. He still will be able to pit and probably go for nothing, actually, because it's the last lap of the race. He can't go for fastest lap. But Owen then 8 seconds clear.
Wheelnut really has tremendous traction through the bus stop chicane and La Source. Every single time he just pulls away massively. Just as it looks like Joe might be able to go for the move, he pulls away every time, and that's helping him at the minute. Of course, this is the final lap, so he may only have really one more opportunity, Joe Sayer, at the bus stop chicane on the final corner, as Jacko's actually gone into the pit lane now. And I don't even think he can go for fastest lap, can he? Because it is the final lap. He's put a fresh set of softs on, but it's a bit worthless at this stage of the race unless he wants a faster sector 3 or 2 or whatever. But anyway, final lap, and Owen, despite the penalty, and, you know, he didn't have a great race in Hungary, but, you know, Dom will finish 5th, I think. But I think he'll still be very happy with this result, Owen, and it does bring him back into the championship, doesn't it, with Dom missing that week in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and of course Owen has beaten Dom on track several times this season himself, so it's not like Owen's just is just about consistency. He also has a great deal of pace, and a great deal of pace is exactly what he has had in this race. Absolutely dominant display. Once he passed Speed Sully, he never looked back, never had any sort of threat. Owen Quenby takes a fantastic win at Spa-Francorchamps. His championship battle is looking a good bit more tasty now after that victory, with Dom only down in P5. Speed Sully comes home in P2, 5.1 seconds back after Owen's penalty. Wheelnut completes the podium, just about holding on from Joe Sayer. Excellent drive from the pair of them. Dom recovers to P5 after his incident on lap 1. Again, who caused that? I don't know. I think Dom was the one on the inside. So Donov Jack turned in. Dom broke too late, or braked too late, I should say. But I'm sure if one driver feels a certain way, it'll end up in the steward's room. But Chris Johnson then, P6, not with the pace that he had in Hungary. Somehow his internet survived until the end of the race. Shep is 7th, with Neljak in 8th. John Menzies recovered up to P9. Of course, you'd imagine there would have been a safety car or two in that race had it been enabled, and that probably would have given John Menzies a good opportunity to fight back to a much higher position. But in the end, P9 for the Aston Martin driver. Jack Craig recovering from last to complete our top 10. So very decent recovery from Jack Craig, but would have been hoping for more. Driver of the day then is Wheelnut, and you know what? That's fair. I mean, I think Wheelnut and Owen and Joe were the standouts from that race. I'd probably give it to Owen. Pole position, didn't get the best start, but then once he passed Sully, he was gone.
Shep had done a great job as well there. Shep to finish 7th after having that spin early on, so a good result for him, as it looks like he was doing a royal wave there, Owen, to the crowd, as there we go, he lifts up another generic trophy
as the women with their generic haircut applaud. Once again, loving it. But they're happy nonetheless. The crowd on the circuit, do they do that in Belgium?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, they definitely don't do it in Baku anyway, and I know that's implemented onto the game, rightly or wrongly. And also fastest lap for Owen then, so absolutely dominant display. Fastest lap by a good margin as well. So Owen then wins from Sully. Wheelnut completing the podium with Sayer Sports up in P4. Dom recovering to P5 after his lap 1 incident at Les Combes. Chris Johnson a solid P6, with Shep also recovering from a spin to come home in 7th. Neljak 8th, with John Menzies also with a recovery drive up into P9. Another recovery drive in the top 10 for Jack Craig, who went from last to P10. Angel vs Death is 11th, with Jacko having a late incident and finishing 12th. Maybe he pitted so that he could have a battle with Angel vs Death, just 9/10 between the two drivers. Indecisive Mackie and Red Bull Kim are the final point scorers in this race. Kaya just missing out on the points there by about 5 seconds, with retirees Blair Grills, Mick Schumacher, Mike Noon, Baza and Mr. John being the first retiree of this race, crashing out on lap number 1, as you can see, with no time set. So not the night that Mr. John was hoping for. But good news for Owen in the championship.
Yeah, and a quick look at the championship standings then. We've got Dom on 228 points. Then we've got Owen, who actually is now in second on 179. John on 172. And Sully, who is still in there, but of course will miss that week on 163 points. So that means, by the way, that if John did get that win in Hungary in that last race, when he clearly had the pace for it, he would have been level on points with Owen on 179, and Dom would have been on 221. But instead, it's Dom on 228 and John on 172, with Owen there now in a firm second place, back in a firm second place, I should say, in that championship. So still a big gap for Dom, But as we say, he will be missing the two races in the penultimate week of the season. That is going to be so important. But of course, there's still important races to come next week as well, and another great night of racing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, two thoroughly entertaining races for us to watch. Of course, the battle for the lead in Belgium was a bit non-existent after lap 2 or 3, but still entertainment throughout the field nonetheless. And yeah, that week that Dom misses Japan and USA, I think they're pretty good tracks for Owen. So that could get pretty interesting when the time comes. But for now, we shall bid you farewell. And yeah, as we've been saying, it's been a fantastic night of racing, and hopefully you'll join us next week for more of the same. We will be going to once again two very different tracks in Zandvoort and Monza. So hopefully you will join us then, same time next week. And yeah, have a good night, everyone. Good night.